here's the problem with data sometimes is you just say, check these boxes and that's the only measuring stick, but that's still not the whole story. Does
Hmm.
that have that adverse effect where you're just saying, hey, if you don't fit this measuring stick, I don't even want to talk to you? Does,
No, you're absolutely right. And oftentimes, one problem that I have is when you're looking at, say, a job description, and you look at, hey, these 10 skill sets for the ideal candidate. I seriously doubt 99% of the population out there is ever going to hit all 10 of those. And you don't want to not bring in a great person because they have 7, 8, maybe 9 of them. I think all of us at some point have come across good to great. I
Mhm.
think one of the best parts in good to great is if you're a great person, I'm going to find a seat for you on the bus. We're not going to say you're going to go into this job, but you're a fantastic person, fantastic talent. We're going to find a seat for you on the bus. So what we did was, yeah, you can go ahead and rank everybody by how much of a perfect fit you are to those criterias, but we're still going to show you additional ones. We're going to highlight what they're lacking, but we highly recommend that this person is still a good contingent. And every single, I think, I haven't looked at the data in a while, but over 80% of jobs require on-the-job site training. And that's just a fact that's never going to go away. I think it would be really bad if it didn't go away.
So
If you're in a role where you're not consistently learning.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when it's funny, people say I'm a constant learner. Well, for me, I feel like that statement's gotten a little old. There's no job that I've ever been part of where you weren't constantly learning, right? And if anything, it's almost unlearning the stuff that you used to know that is no longer relevant, and you learning the new stuff that you're rolling into, right? Um,
The
Joseph,
greatest thing for me is when my team lets me code. Talk about me learning and potentially breaking everything.
yeah, that's funny with my team too. The more I get out of the day to day, the better things actually run. Joseph, you said right. Where what did you say right to? I would love to hear what you gave us a check mark for. And some of the other folks that are listening in, thanks for listening. Um, I'd love to understand more about how you guys have seen the recruiting process. You've seen that has worked well for you, and maybe not so well. Because lots of times it's not a binary process in my mind. There's some stuff that works right, some that doesn't, and I'd love to kind of get Rich's opinion on some of that stuff.
I think one of the most important things, and I made this error in the very beginning when we were first kind of throwing around the idea of what would eventually become Blue Recruit. And it was, hey, we're going to have all this awesome data. And when we get more data and we keep building more and more data, we're going to be able to do really cool things with it. That's wrong. Like, it doesn't matter what size of a company you are, the data you have, there's still incredible uses for it. And I remember when we were in the extreme MVP phase, as I like to call it, really just an idea. We had a landing page, and behind that landing page was an Excel spreadsheet and a whole bunch of notebooks. And we're just gaining information. And what myself and my other co-founders were doing was we were actually calling every single person that went to our landing pages looking for work. And we were actually talking to them on the phone. And like, hey, what are you looking for? What are your experiences? What are your certifications? Because we wanted to make sure that when we eventually built the software, we're going to be collecting the right information. Now looking back, those spreadsheets, that data is probably invaluable because we wouldn't have gone to where we are now had we not done those steps. And I think it's too easy to always think like down the road, I'm going to do something with this data. Like, no, the stuff you have right now is so valuable, and don't not collect data right now because you haven't figured out a way to use it. Like, the more you can collect early, you'll figure something out down the road.
Yeah, there's a thread I want to pull on there, and Joseph has been putting some more comments in here, which I appreciate. He says, "Must find the best person for you. Jobs don't throw away people because all the boxes are not checked." And you're right. I mean, it's all about finding the potential in the people just as much as it is the capacity. If they have the capacity and the desire to do it,
Mhm.
you can get them there. You can train them the skills, right? You got to get them in the door and find the right attitude, right?
Yep.
But so I appreciate you saying that, Joseph. One thing that I wanted to pull on as a thread, though, is this idea of you started very early on with a bunch of notebooks and manual phone calls. So for us, but what you do as a company is constantly call people. I'm in a service company and I'm servicing my existing customers, and I got to hire some new people. I don't have time to do notebooks. How is that going to help me right now? Distill that for me a little bit. And how does that? I mean, because you're talking about. Let's start with just where you are right now and how that starts to improve things. How does that improve? What does that journey look like?
Yeah. So had we stayed notebooks, I mean, it's absolutely impossible to ever grow, to ever scale doing that. And before we do that, I'll back up one thing. One really interesting thing that we did collect during those initial, very manual process of data collection was we found out, our model doesn't work for all jobs. That surgeon role, do not use Blue Recruit to fill the surgeon role. Don't use Blue Recruit to hire your next attorney. But blue collar skilled trades jobs, on average require 4 times more hard skills than the average white collar role. And that's where at the end of the day, like I can't, regardless of how much you train me on site, I can't go to a shipyard in Maine and repair damage to a naval vessel. Doesn't matter because I'm probably going to end up burning my arm off before I ever get enough training to do that. So to even get yourself in the door to start that role, there are certain hard skills you have to have. And that's where Blue Recruit comes in. And that's where we make it so much easier for our clients to identify those folks and then build them up once they're on site, which every job should do. And if your company's not doing that, you're going to fail.
Okay, so that's starting to make more sense here. I mean, we're not talking about Blue Recruit as a solution for everyone. There's a niche. I mean, it's a pretty good sized niche, right? But there's a niche, and that's an interesting statistic that 4 times more hard skills than someone else. And I think what's kind of appearing to me as you're saying that is if you're in one of these service type companies that needs to hire one of these skills, you already probably know that. But being able to kind of get them to self-select themselves walking in the door because either you have these skills or you don't.
No.
It just kind of becomes somewhat, it separates the wheat from the chaff very early on is what I'm hearing.
Yep. Like I can change the oil out of my car. I can't turn over the engine. And it's probably going to take a lot of schooling for me to ever get to that point.
So,
go ahead.
So typical customers that you go into, I mean, who are typical customers for you or partner? Who are the customers for you usually? It's not Duke.
Duke Energy, yes. Okay. But yes, not actually Duke Hospital, yes. Because let's think about COVID right now. Every single person coming into the emergency room, that's completely, people still break their ankles, right? Going out for runs. Someone comes into the emergency room with a broken ankle. Last thing you want is for that person to leave the emergency room with a cast and COVID. So guess what? Every single company now has to find more janitorial staff, more cleaning service specialists. Duke Hospital, hey, these massive hospitals, those electrical systems, those HVAC units, all of those systems need to be maintained. I mean, I'm talking to Mr. Maintainer. So it really is amazing how even companies that you would never think have that skilled labor component, at the end of the day, I'm sitting in this beautiful office building of ours and we need the lights to turn on. And there's always contractors somewhere in the building working on it.
So we had a comment here that flashed up on screen from, let me bring that back up. David Dickey said, I use several ways to recruit and use LinkedIn Recruiter. My data showed that compared to other methods, the data was clear, it was not effective, and helped make the decisions to use the methods that worked the best for my recruiting firm. So I think what I'm distilling here, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, what I think I'm hearing from you is that is information that was coming into it wasn't necessarily effective, though, in trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. I think that's the way I'm reading this. And I think that's a little bit of what you're saying too, Rich. Is that the way you're reading it as well? And make sure I'm getting that right, David.
Yeah, I will say, in the beginning, people used to think, "Oh, so are you like a LinkedIn for blue collar workers?" Absolutely not. And frankly, if anyone out there was trying to create a startup that's going to challenge Microsoft, I'd be like, you might want to rethink that. They've got a couple bucks they can throw behind everything. LinkedIn is an amazing tool. I use it every single day. A lot of our clients, that's how we communicate. However, it wasn't designed for the job seekers that we're servicing. That HVAC tech,